Okay, I was just thinking, you know that scene in the movie where Zod is saying, "I will find your son, I will find him, I will find him," over and over again? I want someone to take the dialogue from that and just have, like, Zod playing hide and seek with the kid, and he'd be like,
I will find him!
"The laser is 'cause I like sci-fi. The dude is 'cause I am a rad guy. 99 is 'cause I like Wayne Gretzky. That's why I'm Lazy Dude 99. Laser time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review and talk about movies and comics too. Let's all go on to review. Hey everybody, I'm Lazy Dude 99, and it's time to review The Man of Steel. This movie directed by Zack Snyder and produced by Christopher Nolan. Starring Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Lawrence Fishburne, and Michael Shannon as Zod. So I would say it's about flippin' time we had another Superman movie. Maybe I should rephrase that. It's about flippin' time we've had a good Superman movie. Ironically enough, the last time was also with Zod, but moving on. So the story of Man of Steel is, of course, about Kal-El, Superman, Clark Kent, Joe, as he's called a couple times in this movie. But so he's an alien from another planet called Krypton that was about to implode, but his father and mother sent him away to Earth, where he, of course, grows into Superman and has all these special powers. And if you don't know the story of Superman by now, well, welcome to the future. Obviously, you come from a time where Superman has not been invented yet. Now, the thing that you gotta know about the Man of Steel is, first things first, it is not what you will expect. Like, I thought I knew Superman's origins. I mean, seriously, these are all Superman origin books. I thought they couldn't really change his origin that much. But they do. I will try to keep spoilers to a minimum for this, but I might do an extended talk near the end of the video talking about spoilers. So bear in mind, guys, I really don't want you to hear the spoiler part, because there might be some things that I say that will put you off if you just hear about it rather than see it for yourself. So when I say don't stick around for the spoiler part, seriously, don't. So let's just talk about the actors. Henry Cavill as Superman. He's a great Superman. I think he's really good. He kind of has a little similar problem that Brandon Routh did, that he doesn't talk as much. But I like when he does talk, first of all, it's not a Christopher Reeve ripoff like Brandon Routh was. And second of all, it does really come across as feeling like Superman. Also, though, him not talking isn't as big of a deal, because we got a lot of storytelling through this film, especially in the beginning, through looks and expressions. This isn't a dialogue-heavy movie. A lot of it is shown to you, and you have to pick up on it yourself. That's why I think that it's getting such a low rating right now on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, to be fair, Rotten Tomatoes didn't give it a bad rating. I believe it's sitting at 58%. That's still a little above average, but I think people are just getting mad at Rotten Tomatoes because it shows a green splat instead of a fresh tomato. Or tomato, whatever. Tomato. Now, and I can understand how some people would find it boring, because the first part of the movie is extremely slow-paced. But in my mind, it's not slow-paced in a bad way. See, it's slow-paced, but it's not to the point where I'm just like, come on, I got a life, come on, let's wrap this up. I mean, the movie is long. It's a long movie, and the pacing isn't exactly fast till you get to the end, and then it hits super speed. I remember feeling in the beginning of this movie that, you know, there isn't a whole lot of action in this movie, and I've been waiting for Superman to get some stinging action, and then it happened. It finally happened. Superman punched someone! Oh my gosh, guys, if you are not a comic book fan or not a Superman fan, you have no idea how relieving it is to actually see a Superman fight sequence. And I love how they portray the Kryptons and their powers because, okay, I'm just gonna say it, this girl stole the show. I thought she was a better villain than Zod. Her emotions and her lines, I really thought she came off as a real cool, evil villain. I forget Zod, I want her to be the main villain. Now, to be fair, I don't think that Michael Shannon did a bad job as Zod. I think he did a good job. It's, of course, it's not as good as the original Zod. Gotta say, maybe I shouldn't say it's not as good, I should say it's not as memorable. Part of it comes off as, he's just kind of the typical villain. And they get into some philosophical things that I'm not sure how well it fit in the movie. Like, Krypton has this whole thing where they don't actually breed normally like we do. They have, like, artificial births and people who are bred to fulfill a certain role in the Krypton society. And that's the only thing. In Kal-El, Superman is the first original birth in over, like, a century or something. And I'm not saying that stuff wasn't interesting. It definitely was interesting and intrigued me and caught my attention. Part of me was thinking, what is this doing in a Superman film? This sounds like something that should be in a Star Trek film. However, that's not really a complaint against it. If it was boring and didn't really have a point, then I'd say it was bad. But it does serve a point, and it's not exactly boring. I'm just confused. I was just kind of confused what this was doing in the Superman movie. That's all. Amy Adams is Lois Lane. Step aside, Margot Kidder. Here's the new best Lois Lane. I really like her, because there's no cliched setup scenes where she says, "Oh, I'm the tough, tenacious girl reporter." She just goes and does her job to the best of her abilities and does whatever it takes to get the story. And she goes to every end. And I like that she doesn't explain to anyone why she is the way she is. She just does it. She doesn't really care what anybody else thinks. She just does it. And I like that she and Superman start to form a relationship here, but there's no, like, "Oh, I'm so in love with that man. And man, that girl is one tenacious girl. I'm in love with her." It's not like that. They both start having feelings towards each other. One complaint that I do kind of have is that we show Clark Kent doing all these other things, being on a fishing boat or something like that. And then at the end of the movie, he becomes, he works at the Daily Planet and everything, and has the glasses, classic look and everything. The thing that just doesn't set well with me with that is we see at no point in any of the flashbacks or in any of the scenes of him as an adult of him doing reporter stuff. I mean, so he has no references, no, job descriptions. If they went the route that they did in Superman Earth 1, where he just, where Superman uses a report and says, "Oh, this is from Superman," and uses that to get hired, then I can kind of see that working a little bit more. But I don't know, did he get hired at the Daily Planet if we've seen him have no reporter experience? But the fights. Oh man, those were great. Superman versus Zod rivals the Avengers versus Ashtari. I'm not sure if I would say if it was better, because I think the Avengers might have a couple more memorable scenes, but this has just as much action-packed moments throughout it. And I think it's taken more seriously than the Avengers, where, Superman... that's kind of interesting. That I'm saying that a Superman film, you felt more like Superman was in danger than the Avengers films, where there's guys on the team that don't have any powers. I don't know, just in the Avengers film, you never felt like any of the guys were actually in any real danger. You just soaked in all the awesomeness of the scene. This, you felt like, oh yeah, it's awesome, but it's also brutal and, our main character is in danger. Not that I thought that they were going to kill Superman anyway, but the stakes were high that people could die. I think part of the reason why some people might not really be enjoying this film a whole lot has to do with this is not a funny film. In fact, if you really kind of think about it, Batman Begins has more funny moments than this movie. That being said, this is not a darker film than Batman Begins or The Dark Knight. Definitely not. It's just saying that there's a couple of scenes that are pretty funny, but there's not a whole lot that stand out. Like okay, if you compared like this movie to the Avengers had people laughing like I nearly fell out of my seat a couple times laughing like that in the Avengers. This movie doesn't really have that, and since it's slow pacing, I can see how some people would find it boring. I think part of it really has to do with the interest in the character in general. You know, if you're interested in Superman, you're going to find this stuff about Superman interesting. However, if you don't really care about Superman, you might find these boring because you don't really care about the character to begin with. I will say that there were times where I felt the action was going too long, and I couldn't really, you can only take so much for so long. However, that being said, as Browncoat Eric said in his review, it felt like a 40-year itch being removed because Superman just fighting, actual fighting, it was relaxing. It was mellow. It was just awesome. And it was great, but I do still think, for story's sake, some of the action scenes might have dragged on a little bit too long. Or maybe there could have been a better break in between the action scenes. Longer, because there was, we just come from this big action scene, and we get a little bit of a break, but it's not too long before we're right back into another big action scene. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about before I get into the spoilers, so I will get my rating right now, and then talk about the spoilers after. So I am giving Man of Steel an 8 out of 10. It's a thoroughly enjoying experience, and it's pretty darn good. I don't really care what other people say. I really think it has to do with if you're able to like Superman. If you don't really care about Superman, I can't say that this is going to convince you. But if you do like Superman, if you've been waiting to see Superman in a movie just as long like I have, you're going to like this fine. And not just fine, you're going to really enjoy yourself, I think. So, thank you for watching. Now, if you haven't seen it, go see it now. Because now I'm going to talk about the spoiler stuff. So, the first thing that I was really impressed with, because, okay, we get the scene with Lois following who she doesn't know yet is Clark Kent, and then she gets, stabbed a little bit and he has to use his powers. I'm like, oh, well, she's going to recognize. How am I supposed to believe that when he becomes Clark Kent and at the Daily Planet, that she's not going to recognize him? Because she saw him without the suit and without glasses. And then, oh, wait a minute. Now she's on his trail. Now she's at his mother's house. Oh, she knows he's Clark Kent. And she's going to start the story knowing that Clark Kent is Superman. Why didn't I think of that? The one thing that all these stories have in common is that Clark Kent is keeping it a secret from Lois that he's Superman. Every single one of these stories shares that. And they have and this one has a different way of introducing the glasses than this one, but this one also has a way, and all of them have a way of introducing the glasses and the whole thing and the whole scenario. But then I didn't realize they're not using the glasses to fool Lois. Because I guess it kind of makes sense, because in order for Lois to actually feel like she's going to get close to Clark in a romantic way, she's going to have to know both sides. And that's always what it was like in the comic books. As soon as she was in love with Clark, just as much as Superman, then Clark showed that she was Superman. He showed her that he was Superman. But here, she starts out knowing. I thought that was a really good twist. I thought that was a really good change to the story. It separates it from all the other stories. And it does. I just thought that was such a good idea to do that. And I can't believe that nobody else thought of it to do it that way in the story. To me, it came across as very much like Ultimate Spider-Man, where Mary Jane knew by the 3rd issue. You know, it adds a different twist and different scenarios to the story and sets up different things to happen later on that's going to be separate from what happened in the past. But when people want to talk about spoilers, I have a feeling there's one thing that people want to talk about. I wasn't bothered by it. I mean, when Superman breaks Zod's neck, my eyes went... I literally was like this in the theater. And I thought that my fanboy was gonna come out and say, Superman doesn't kill! But we do live in a different day and age. Because, and by that I don't mean I want Superman killing all of his villains. Now, it was obviously set up in the moment that Zod was going to kill these innocent people. And Superman is like, don't do it! He's like pleading and saying, don't do it, don't do it! And the first thing that came to my mind is just like, fly him up, you have him in your arms, fly him up. I wish they had just a quick scene where like, he tries to fly him up and maybe like Zod's kind of like flying down, using the gravity to keep him where they are. I wish they had a quick scene like that, just so you don't have the things like Superman, you could have just flown him upwards. But I wasn't bothered by it, because truly, it would be no different than a police officer shooting someone to protect someone else. And it was the right reaction, because it's not like Superman just went like, oh yeah, there you go, Zod, there you go. That's the way. He just screams out in like agony and in regret, and he just screams out in like guilt. I don't know. He handled it right. I never like, if you had told me before I saw this movie, hey, Superman kills someone in this movie, he breaks his neck, I would be like, no, I'm not seeing it. Why would I see that? But to be fair, it's this world that Christopher Nolan set up, and Zack Snyder, I shouldn't give all the credit to Nolan, I'm just used to doing that. Superman did not murder Zod. Because when it comes to the line is still there because he didn't murder Zod. If he did it more than any police officer would actually have to do. He gave him a warning. He told him to stop. He wouldn't do either. He wasn't going to stop. And the only way to save these people was to kill him. And the only way he could kill him really was to... Really, actually, breaking his neck was probably the least painful way he could have done it. If you think about it, because what? He could have burned through his head with his heat vision. When it came down to it, I'm just like, if I was in the situation, I would probably have to do the same thing. I'd probably feel just as horrid. The thing is, I hope that they address this in the next film. I hope this isn't like guys, this isn't like Tim Burton's Batman, where he's like slapping a stick of dynamite to someone and blowing them up, and walking away like, whatever. Or driving a Batmobile through a factory and killing hundreds of henchmen. This isn't like that. In fact, if you really think about it, Superman did more that he could do in this film than he did in Superman 2. You know, because if you remember, Superman 2, he pretended like he was gonna lose all of his powers, and then he and Lois Lane just pushed them all off a cliff. And they were like, yeah, good job, Lois, yeah, we did a good job. That was handled worse than this if you really think about it. So I think that this isn't the first time Superman's killed someone in the movies. This is, in fact, I think the last time I think it was worse because they were defenseless. They didn't have their powers anymore. He could have picked him up and threw him in jail, but no, they threw him off a cliff. So here we have a Zod who isn't powerless, who isn't defenseless, and who could hurt and kill other people, and Superman has to bring him down. So that's all I have to say about that. So, enough about that. I want to talk about my two things that I didn't really like about this movie, and ironically, both of them have to do with the way Superman's dads die. First thing, Jor-El doesn't die by just Krypton exploding. He dies when Zod stabs him in the back. By the way, this is a cool knife. I'm going to use it in my reviews now. Okay, so Jor-El is killed by Zod. Then Zod gets put... Like, here's the weird thing. Jor-El was telling the council that, yeah, Krypton's going to explode on itself. And it looked like they kind of believed him, or at least they realized that, yeah, that was going to happen. And yet they send Zod and his criminal counterparts to the Phantom Zone. Because, like, shouldn't they have loaded the council on that ship and left Zod to say, hey, you want Krypton? It's all yours. We're out of here. But anyway, I don't like that Jor-El was killed before Krypton exploded, because I always loved that image of Jor-El and Lara being with each other in their final moments while Krypton exploded, looking at their son, giving their species hope. I always just like that image of them holding each other, being with them in their final moments, just praying and hoping that their son will have a life for themselves, and giving them something that they can't have, and spending their last moments together. I always thought that was a great image, and now Zod just is like, you're dead, and now I guess so is Krypton. Second thing, the way Jonathan... First off, I'm just going to get my personal opinion out there, that I like the fact when Jonathan Kent died of a heart attack. It shows that even though Superman is all-powerful, he can't control everything. Secondly, though, it was so contrived. A tornado is coming at them, and oh no, you gotta get everyone under the bridge, you gotta get everyone to shelter, and then Martha's like, the dog! Get the dog! Seriously, lady? Seriously, guys, we're doing the dog thing? Okay, lady, you're asking your husband, who you love, to save your dog, who you love too, but not in the same way. What? Screw the dog. I love dogs, but no, I would not go back for my dog in a tornado. Or at least not, if I was married, I wouldn't send the woman I love to go get it. I mean, seriously. And then there's a point where Clark's like, I'll get it. And Jonathan's like, no, you stay. I'm like, no, send the guy who has the unbreakable bones in the tornado. Okay? Don't have the old guy do it. I mean, seriously? Like, even if he got sucked into the tornado and you know, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, because there's plenty of stories of people who got sucked in tornadoes and still survived. There's plenty of stories like that. Clark could have just been another one of those, how he miraculously survived. And nobody would have given it that much of a second thought. I felt Jonathan Kent's death was extremely... Like, it's touching the moment where he's like, you stay there. And he's like, no, I'm going to die to keep your secret, sort of thing. But I felt that was so contrived. And the fact that he went back for a... Okay, what if he went back for, like, a kid, a little girl, or something, someone else's kid that was trapped in a car, or somebody who was trapped underneath the car, or something like that. I don't know. Just something else. The fact that he went back for a dog, that his wife sent him back for a dog, and he died because of that. I think she should be racked with guilt that she sent him back for a dog. I just thought that was like, I'm like, no. That was the only flashback I didn't really like at all. No, I think that's about it. So, yeah, I like the movie. It is slow at parts. Like, the pacing is pretty slow sometimes. It's not as humorous as a lot of superhero movies are these days. However, I thought it was a great movie. So, I've already given my rating, so the only thing left for me to say is Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm LazyDude99, and if I don't like it, it's not worth it. And now I have a knife.
Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.